Hi there, and thank you for joining NSBA for today's quick issue brief on the Corporate Transparency Act. There's been a lot going on, and we're happy to have everybody here with us today. We have muted all lines. We're expecting quite a few people on the line, so if you have questions, we ask you to put those in the chat. As such, we also ask you to keep the chat relatively clear so we can keep up with any questions you have. We're going to do an overview of where the law is right now, our lawsuits, various other lawsuits, and then we're going to take your questions. At the end of that, we're going to kind of show you how to do an action alert because there's still a lot for you to do and we want you to be engaged and active with us, and we want to make that as easy for you as possible. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our fearless leader, Todd McCracken, the president and CEO of NSBA, who's going to give you the update on the CTA. Todd?
Thank you, Molly, and thank you all for being here. It's good to see some familiar faces and some new ones too. Hopefully this will be relatively brief because the state of play for CTA now is simplified greatly in the last few weeks, but we just wanted to get right together and give you sort of everyone a level set of where things stand. It's mostly good news, as I hope you already have heard at some degree. The administration announced a few weeks ago that they were going to not enforce the CTA on companies and issue a new rule, which they have now done. Just a few days ago, they issued a new interim final rule, which only requires CTA or business, or excuse me, beneficial ownership reporting under the CTA for foreign companies and foreign owners of those companies. So it basically, the burden is lifted entirely for domestic companies and domestic owners of those companies. So for 99% of our members, it makes the CTA moot for the moment. I should add, however, since this is being done through executive action, I think the action itself is likely to face a court challenge. And there's a reasonable chance that the plaintiffs will win that challenge and say that basically, no, the administration did not have the authority to lift reporting on domestic entities, and they must do that. However, if that is the case, that court case will take years to work its way through the courts. So for the foreseeable future, folks do not have to comply with the Corporate Transparency Act if you're a domestic company with domestic owners. I should add, however, that the underlying law remains in effect. So either this administration or a future administration could, and I expect would, in the future at some point, reinstate something like the reporting regime and burden that has had us so concerned over the last couple of years and provoked us to file this lawsuit in the first place. So we think our lawsuit is still in play. The injunction that NSBA members enjoy is still in effect, even though it's not necessary at this point. If something changes, it could be necessary again. And we are also pursuing repeal of the Corporate Transparency Act through the legislative process, because we want a long-term permanent solution, and that's either going to come through the courts by ultimately the Supreme Court stating the law is unconstitutional and it can't be enforced by any administration at any point in time, or that Congress will step back and repeal or dramatically reform the law that exists. And I think the chances of that are reasonable. So in a nutshell, that's where things stand. So it's actually all really good news. I should say that the administration's interim final rule is something we see occasionally, and basically what it is it's an interim rule, meaning that they put it out there and it went into effect immediately. Usually there's this notice and comment period. But what's happening is it's in effect, but there's still a comment period. So they have basically reserved the right to, if based on comments, they may make some modifications to the rule. I actually don't expect they will make any modifications. I think this interim final rule will be the final rule or something extremely close to it. But for now and for the foreseeable future, that is what it is. So Yeah, I think that's basically the state of play on this part of it. I think there's some more stuff we want to get to here in a minute, but maybe I'll pause really fast and just see if there are any questions about that before we move on. Molly, do you see any questions in the chat or anywhere else?
None have been popped up yet, but a question that I get all the time, Todd, is, can people sign on to a class action? Is there a class action? What can they do to help legally? Could you address that really quick for folks?
I think all of the things that can address this legally are already in play. As you all know, we we filed the very first lawsuit, and until we won that, there were no other lawsuits. Now I've actually lost count. There's a whole range of or basically copycat lawsuits, because after we won, people said, "Oh, we can actually sue and win this thing." So a lot of them, filed in district courts mirroring our lawsuit, and many of those have won. Many of them are working their way through the courts now. Our lawsuit is still at the 11th Circuit. The judges have asked for, um, based upon the Trump administration's actions, asked for some more arguments from us. So that ruling is still coming. Other cases are also making their way to the courts. So I think ultimately this will make its way to the Supreme Court. I don't think any further lawsuits or class actions need to be filed at this point in order to make that happen. So I think it's going to run its course, and what's going to happen judicially will happen, regardless of what other folks do at this point.
Thanks, Todd. We do have a question, and I know we've heard this before, but if you've already provided that beneficial ownership information prior to the deadline, what happens to it? Is there a way to undo it? What's the next
That's
step?
that. Yeah, that's a very good question. That's one thing that we will be pursuing as well to roll forward, is to request that FinCEN find a way to destroy or delete whatever information they have already collected from the many thousands of folks who went ahead and filed their beneficial ownership statements. If they don't do that voluntarily, I think we will continue to pursue legislative options to force them to do that.
Great. I'm not seeing any other questions, so just a reminder to pop those into the chat if you have any questions. You can also direct message either me, and I'm Molly Day. I apologize, I don't think I introduced myself. I'm the VP of Public Affairs here at NSBA. You can direct message me or Ian if you'd prefer not to have it in the full chat, and we'll read those for you. While we wait for that, what I'd like to do, part of that question was, what more can I do? How can I help? Well, there's a really
Mhm.
great way to help, and that's through our Action Alert Center. And so what I'd like to do, I'm going to put a link in the chat here, and I would encourage everybody to click on this link, and we can go through an action alert together. What an action alert is it's an email that we've drafted, researched. It's already written for you. You just have to input your information, and then it gets sent up to your senators and member of Congress. So let me go ahead and share my screen quite quick, and I will show you all how to do that. And it's always happens that when you want to share your screen, you have a hard time finding what it is you're looking for. So let me get to the right spot. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So you'll see here, and hopefully everybody's link has led you to this page here where it says, urge lawmakers to repeal the CTA. Once you're done with this, I encourage everybody to go back and click on Action Center up here. And there's all kinds of other action alerts that we have. And these are written by our fantastic Gov Affairs staff. I've spent a lot of time getting these all updated, putting new information in, making sure that they're targeted to just the right members of Congress, whether it's senators or representatives or folks on a certain committee. So they're really a great resource. And once you fill this out the first time, it should only take you about 2 minutes to go in and do it again. So you'll see here that I've put in my information. You're going to put in your name, your email address, and your home information. Home information is critical because that's how the web magicians send your information to the right person, and it's always based on home because that's who you're a constituent of. If you put in your business address, they may not send it to the right spot. So it does ask for your business information. So we do encourage you to put that in as well, because that can be useful if you're in two different districts and, you know, we'll try and get it to as many people as possible. So be sure to put that information in. Also, make sure that you hit remember me, and yes, sign me up to receive email updates and alerts. We send these out pretty regularly. We almost always have one in our weekly advocate. So if you're not signed up there, maybe Ian can grab that link to subscribe and pop that in the chat as well. But then you're going to hit review your message. And this is where you can see the message, and it's a little wonky here. It's this little message body here. So you're going to have to do a bit of scrolling and go through and see what we wrote. So what you're going to want to do, however, is add in some personal information. Talk about how many employees you have, how the CTA would directly impact you, how you think it's going to cause, a chilling effect on investment if you think that. If you're concerned about data breaches, put that in there. We do talk about all of these issues in here, but having something personal from you can really be impactful in these letters. So we really encourage you to do that. So once you've done that, then you just simply click send a message, and I'm not going to do that, but we'd love for you all to do that to get that information out and send that into your members of Congress. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. If you have questions about this, feel free to shoot Ian an email and we will get you detailed information on that. But like I said, it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to do. And once you have all your information in, then it's even quicker to fill out any of our action alerts, whether it's, support the SBA or reduce the cost of healthcare or pass tax extenders. There's a whole bunch of really important alerts that are up there. So be sure that you check those out as well.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. And I also just wanted to add one reason why this is so important is because I think there's a real political danger now that the administration has taken this action to basically halt enforcement for all intents and purposes of the CTA. That it will take the wind out of the sails to get a final legislative solution to this problem. Because we should be very clear that what the administration has done is almost certainly temporary. I believe it will almost certainly be relooked at by a future administration, and the courts may require even this administration at some point late in the administration to relook at it again. So the real solution ultimately really is to get the thing off the books entirely. And we're afraid that folks on the Hill might think, oh, well, this is solved now. We don't have to worry about doing anything. So it really is important that they continue to hear from us that while this is really good news, the fight's not over, and we need to get this thing taken care of once and for all.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We do have another question. And the question is, I'm not a foreign business, but if I have a foreign business partner, do I have to comply with the CTA? No.
Not if it's a domestic entity.
Okay. Another question is, what is the status of the 2 repeal bills in the Senate?
They are still awaiting action, which is why we need to generate more support and show that the grassroots still need the Senate and the House to take action.
Kind of along those lines, is it more important to contact House or Senate members, Todd?
I don't think it's more important one way or the other. I think it's important across the board, because the main thing we're fighting, I think, is a lack of momentum. Folks need to hear across the board that this is still a concern for small companies.
Great. Another question is, my CPA is telling me I still need to file. What resources should I share with them?
Resources to share with the CPA.
That's correct. Yeah.
I mean, they can share the information from our website, which I believe should link to the actual FinCEN site with the interim rule. It is possible that a lot of service providers still have not gotten the news, even though it's been out there for several days now of this change. But there should be no need for the vast majority of companies domestically to file this.
Okay. Another question is the CPA trying to get paid on doing this stuff for the CTA? Is that why? And I don't know that that's necessarily a question, but food for thought. I know Ian just posted the CTA resources on our website. I'm also going to attach or include a link to subscribe to our weekly advocate. So if you're not getting that every Wednesday, sometimes Thursday, click on that list and make sure that you're subscribed, and we'll be sure that you get all the most latest updates. I'm not seeing any other questions in here, so we'll give one last call if there's questions about the CTA or the action alert system. Feel free to put those in the chat. Okay. Otherwise, I think one more question. If this doesn't get resolved by the courts or Congress and a future administration enforces the rule, is there a possibility of a penalties back to the original due date?
Uh, I can't imagine. I don't think that would be possible given the authority that the FinCEN has to to put in place what they have now. That would be almost surely illegal. So I would say no.
Okay. Well, that looks like the last question we have. So, Todd, I'll turn it back over to you for any good of the order comments.
I think I've said my piece. I really appreciate y'all being here, and I appreciate everyone's continued focus on this and for being with us through this battle so far. It's hard to believe that we filed this lawsuit um, 2.5 years ago, and we're finally at this point where the battle's almost won. Just a few more steps. Hopefully, we'll have this thing licked. So, thank you all. And if there are any further questions, as Molly said, don't hesitate to email us or call, and we'll do our best to get you answers. So, thanks for being here.
Thanks, everyone.